Hello and welcome to Lovely English Stories. This story is written for upper intermediate English learners. Ready? Then let's get started. B2 English Story. Starting again. The feathers left in the middle of the garden told their own story. Something terrible had happened. A bird of some sort had tragically lost its life. The local fox was at it again, prowling and on the hunt for its next victim. Who or what would it be? The joys of living in the English countryside were sometimes outweighed by the forces of nature, whether that was a flash flood, being snowed in, or animals attacking each other. Kim often felt it might be nicer living in the city, where these sorts of things didn't seem to happen, or at least they didn't happen as often. But then again, she wouldn't want to give up the general tranquility and sereneness she had on her doorstep. Kim lived in a tiny house. It wasn't much, but it was hers, and no one could take it away from her. She had a small but perfectly formed garden. It overflowed with wild flowers, insects, birds, and other creatures. She had hedgehogs nesting in her hedges, and birds making her trees their home. She almost felt like Cinderella, if only the animals could talk back. Although Kim had a lovely home and was surrounded by natural beauty, she was lonely. Sometimes she dreaded coming home to her empty house. She often talked aloud to herself and made up games to keep herself entertained. Kim had grown up being surrounded by siblings, so she was used to noise and the hustle and bustle of a busy household. Now she was alone, just her and the animals fighting with each other on her back lawn. As she gazed out of her kitchen window, drinking her weak tea, she sighed. She knew she was incredibly lucky to have all this, but they were material things. She missed her friends, she missed arguing with her siblings, and she missed having someone around the house. Kim had bought the house with her husband 12 years prior. They wanted to move out of the city, but still be within a commutable distance. The house was in the perfect location. It had privacy, but neighbors close by. It had a garden, but it wasn't too big. And it had just been renovated, so they didn't need to worry about unexpected costs for new boilers or a replacement roof. Kim was the happiest she had been in years. That was until her husband, Marcus, passed away 2 years ago. He worked as a nurse at the local hospital, and one wintry January evening, he was kept behind due to staff shortages. He was running late for their weekly date night, so he decided to surprise Kim and stopped off at the takeaway on the way home. He ordered her favorite dish and picked up a bottle of wine. He wanted to make it up to her for being at work so much recently. On his drive down the steep hill from the takeaway to their village, Marcus hit a sheet of black ice and lost control of the car. Unfortunately, he crashed into a tree and didn't recover from his injuries. The police and paramedics assured Kim that he wouldn't have suffered, but she had suffered ever since. She missed him every minute of every hour of every day. Marcus was everything to her, Ever since they met, they were inseparable. Since he passed away, she had been grieving and was incredibly lonely. Kim knew he would be angry at her if he saw how she was living. She went to work, came home, worked in the garden, watched TV, and went to bed. That was her life. She hadn't attempted to keep in touch with friends, and her siblings lived too far away for her to see on a regular basis. She knew she needed to make some changes. It would be tough, but she couldn't continue to live her life in this way. She was in her late 30s and had so much more to give. She knew she shouldn't let the big black cloud of depression and grief loom over her. She had to try and break it down and let the sun rays shine down on her again. But that was easier said than done. She had tried therapy. She was offered it by the health services after Marcus passed away. She didn't particularly click with her therapist and so decided to knock it on the head. Instead, she tried to deal with her emotions herself. The problem was, she had a life laid out for her with Marcus. They planned to have children and move to a bigger house. They wanted to travel the world and renovate their very own camper van. Now that was all gone. She sat down at her kitchen table, took out a dusty notebook, and decided to set herself some short and long-term goals. She needed to have a mixture of bite-sized goals for now and bigger beasts that she could tackle in a year or two when she was more comfortable with her new way of life without Marcus. She decided to pick 3 short-term goals and 3 long-term goals. Her short-term goals were heavily linked to Marcus and some of the plans they had started but never finished. They were 1. Start running club. 2. Finish decorating the spare room. 3. Get a dog. Kim was always a decent runner, but since Marcus died, she struggled to walk around the block, never mind go for a run. She had already found a local running club and decided that she would give them a call. Her second short-term goal was to sort out the spare room. Marcus had started rearranging and redecorating the room so they could have guests over to stay, but after he passed away, Kim didn't have the energy to do it. But now she needed to. Once the room was sorted, she could invite her siblings and friends over more often and give them a bed to sleep in instead of asking them to sleep on the sofa. Her long-term goals were the things that Kim could work towards over the next year or so. She wrote down 1. Organize a dinner party with old friends. 2. Take some training courses to improve chances of getting a promotion. And 3. Buy a camper van. The dinner party was a long-term goal, as Kim had to reach out and build her friendships again. Her friends knew she was struggling and didn't want to invade her space, but she felt like she had been overly distant with them and needed to make it up to them. Kim also knew she was stagnating in her job, and to get a promotion, she would need to put in some extra work and take some additional courses to help her move up the career ladder. Finally, she still wanted a camper van. Marcus always had dreams of them traveling around Europe in a camper, and she wanted to make that a reality one day. Kim decided that all she had to do was continue to take one day at a time. By having these goals to work towards, she could give her life meaning again. Now all Kim had to do was start ticking off the goals. She promised herself that tomorrow was a new day and it would be a better day. She would try her best to start again and write a new chapter of her life for Marcus. We hope you enjoyed this lovely English story. Thank you for stopping by. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share.